Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's the Pocket Moggers. Hope you're doing well today. It's a very hot, humid, and stormy day up here where I'm living, so I've got some fans on. I hope they don't obstruct your hearing too much, but you may hear them in the background a little bit. For that, I apologize. Today, we're going to talk about the top cave or dungeon in each region in Pokemon. Just to make it clear, Legends ZA and Legends Arceus count as Gen 4 and Gen 6 for me. So if they do something better than their mainstream version counterparts like X and Y or Diamond and Pearl, for example, they will be the ones that take that spot. I don't think that's the case this time around, but just for future reference, just so y'all know, they are candidates for those two generations as well. I've added another one as well because I wanted to do spin-offs for this one because when I think caves in Pokemon, I think of one specific area and it is not from a mainline game. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's get started. These are my personal top caves or dungeons for each region in Pokemon. Let me know below which ones you like and what you like about them. With that out of the way, let's get started. You may not believe this, but the first one that we're going to talk about is Generation 1. Kanto. Ooh, excuse me, folks. I know, crazy, right? I'm still having hiccups from the other videos that I recorded about Sega and stuff like that. This is the same day, so forgive me if they come up. I don't think they will. Um, anyway, yeah. So my first pick for Generation 1 is going to be the Pokemon Mansion in Cinnabar Island. And I also like the Seafoam Islands, which are nearby, but I think the Pokemon Mansion takes it for me because of the lore. It's cool that you get to read all of these books about Mewtwo and how Mewtwo was created and what happens to it. There aren't a lot of Pokemon that have that level of dedicated lore to them or plot to them, so it's nice for us to have them. I question who just left them about and how they, of all the books, magically weren't burned, but it's still cool to see. It ties in with the greater Pokemon lore too, with the Pokemon movie, and Pokemon Adventures and stuff like that. Overall, it's just a really cool dungeon area. Fire types are my favorite types of Pokemon. There aren't a lot of fire types in there. There's Magmar, there's Ponyta, and Growlithe in early games, but as the generations have gone on, less and less fire types have been in there. But I still think of it as a fire type dungeon, sort. What about you? What's your favorite dungeon in Kanto? Let me know, please. I'd love to hear it. So I forgot to mention it in the last video, but I'm going to give the Pokemon Mansion a 4 out of 5 due to its plot relevance, the amount of exploring you can do with all of the different switches, the Pokemon availability, particularly in earlier games, and just the general atmosphere and music for it. So, jumping over to Gen 2, my favorite cave or dungeon in Gen 2 is the Dark Cave in Johto. It is not particularly relevant. There are some rare Pokemon that can only be found in there in this game, like Wobbuffet and Dunsparce, with Pokemon Crystal adding the Teddiursa family in here too, which I think makes a lot of sense. Um, but outside of being a collector who wants to get all of them, there's really no reason to come to Dark Cave. And that's part of what I like about it. It's very much a mood. The music really fits well with what's going on in the area. But I also like the fact that it's a cave that has no real significance, but has a whole bunch of different connecting terminals to different parts of the Johto region. You can be over by Violet City, and then you can end up north and around Blackthorn, and then you can take that area to go down and be somewhere in between the two, heading over towards Little Root Town, or Little Root, New Bark Town, excuse me. Um, and it's just a cool cave idea and execution, and I really like the fact that it's just a natural formation There's really nothing special to it. It's got some rare Pokemon, but they're not really tough. It just is kind of there. And while that's going to give it a low rating in comparison to the other caves in the other regions of Pokemon, I'm not really too upset about it. Again, all of that's kind of what I like about it. So I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. Do you have a dungeon in Johto that you like better? Let me know. So the abandoned ship is my favorite dungeon in Hoenn. Like with Johto, this one isn't particularly plot relevant. It gains a little more relevance in the remakes, where it's also known as the Sea Mauville. I'm kind of iffy on all of the stuff that got added in there. I kind of liked the abandoned ship as a mystery a little better, but it's not bad either. But what I really like about it is just the uniqueness of it. You know, there really aren't a lot of shipwrecks in Pokemon that you can go explore, and you don't really get to see the consequences of that often. You know, it's cool that in the lower decks there's fishing areas. I think Tentacruel are only found on the ship, in the wreckage of the ship or something like that, right? So there's not like a lot of Pokemon to find, but there's something there. Oh boy. And then there's dive chambers with hidden areas. There's the mechanic about memorizing which items are glowing in each room to figure out how to solve the puzzles. There are trainers to find there. There's items that you get for exploring there that help you complete your Pokedex. It's not lore intensive. It's certainly not important. There's no reason to go back more than once, but I do like it a lot. And personally, it's a 3.5 out of 5 for me. Let me know what you think below, and if you have any you like better in Hoenn. So over in the Sinnoh region, we've got Mount Coronet. Mount Coronet is central to the plot of Pokemon Diamond and Pearl and Platinum version, as well as the remakes, and of course, Legends Arceus and its story. And these games do a wonderful job of incorporating the mountain into the entire experience. You go through it multiple times in the story. In order to get everything, you have to go back multiple times in, well, not necessarily the post game in Diamond and Pearl, but in Platinum, yeah, in the post game. And it always feels like a presence in the region. You know, the mountain splits the Shellos and Gastrodon into two different colors. There we go. Sorry, everybody. It splits them into two different colors. The Magneton and Nosepass evolve around the mountain. Several species are found only in the mountain or around the mountain, like Clefairy and the Chingling line. Nosepass, for example. So there's just a lot to it. It has a lot of presence in the game. NPCs talk about it all the time. It's central to the overarching plot. It doesn't get much better than this. Oh, the music's fantastic too. I'm gonna give Mount Coronet a 4.5 out of 5, and that's gonna be my personal favorite for the Sinnoh region. Let me know what you think, and if you have one that you think does better. In Unova, the Relic Castle is a personal favorite of mine, and another personal favorite in all of Pokemon for me. It's got some unique mechanics for the game and the world of Pokemon, rather, with the sliding sand that you have to navigate through. It's got rare Pokemon in it, like rare and good Pokemon too, like Yamask and Cofagrigus, the Sandile line, and of course the ultimate prize, the Volcarona that you can find in there, which is super useful to your journey in Black 2 and White 2, and a super fun find in Black and White 1 after the game is done. I was super shocked when I entered this area after I beat Black and White 1, because I went here almost immediately and I ran into a Team Plasma Grunt with a level 65 Crocodile with a whole bunch of Pokemon in their 50s. I was completely shocked at how strong they were, but it was also part of the thing that endeared me to the area. You can find some non Unovan Pokemon here in both games. since you access it after the post game in black and white, and non-Unova Pokemon are everywhere in black 2 and white 2, so that's a nice plus as well. Uh, I love the theme behind it. Ruins, again, I talked about that with Roots, I think with Route 6 and Galar in my Roots Pokemon video. I think that Ruins make a wonderful dungeon and route backdrop, and this is no exception. This is probably the best example of it, even, in my personal opinion. So with all that being said, it's going to tie with Mount Coronet for a 4.5 out of 5 for me personally. Let me know what y'all think, and if you think there's a dungeon in Unova that you can't even begin to believe I forgot, and how wrong I was for doing that. So starting in this generation, examples start to get a little sparse. It gets a little difficult to come up with good examples, ones that I find memorable. But for Kalos, I think Reflection Cave is the best choice. There aren't too many particularly memorable ones here. I was thinking about Victory Road over here, and it is cool, but I don't know that I like it as much as Reflection Cave. There's also, I can't remember the name of it, but the cave with Zygarde in it. And I always want to call it Turnback Cave, but that's where Giratina is. And it's okay, but I don't think it's as good as Reflection Cave either. The gimmick of crystals that just cast your reflection on the wall and let you see trainers through them, or Pokemon hanging from the ceilings and stuff like that. It's cool. It's very unique. I kind of wish they had done it again in the game, or emphasized it more, or maybe made a bigger post-game section out of it. It feels like this is where Diancie was supposed to be while they were planning everything out and just didn't get the time to make it. If we ever do revisit X and Y version in particular, that is to say the Kalos region and not just one city for $70, it would be nice to see how Diancie fits into this cave and where everything works, just get a full picture of it. But again, you do have to come through here, but you don't have to get anything especially special in here. There are some rare encounters in the cave. I don't recall any of them being especially wonderful. Like Carbink is here, and I think Mr. Mime / Mime Jr. is found here. I know that you can find like Ferroseed from the walls and stuff like that. But again, I don't remember anything especially unique outside of Carbink. So overall, I'm going to give this cave a 3.5 out of 5. Let me know what you think, if you agree with me. If not, why not? And tell me what caves in Kalos are better. Okay, I don't know how to say this, so I'm probably going to butcher it, but the Haina Desert is my favorite dungeon thing in Alola. There really aren't a lot of dungeons. There's some, like, you have to push some blocks with Machamp in some places or break some rocks with Tauros, but dungeons proper kind of go away at this point, and it's such a pity. But I think Haina Desert is my favorite because it's the closest to a traditional dungeon where you have to solve a puzzle and you can explore to find other things, but you might have to go back to the beginning again, and you're not really sure how big the area is when you go through it at first. There's not a lot of music in this area. There's a lot of winds and stuff. This is the first desert in Pokemon that actually felt like a desert to me. I thought that was really cool. There's a fun little alien out here looking for Solrock and Lunatone to give you a fun little fake out, given what you think they're asking for. You can find, of course, the Abundant Shrine with Tapu Bulu and get yourself a legendary while you're here, too. There are some TMs, stuff like that. So it's not a complete waste to come out here, but it is completely optional. And there's definitely no reason to come back more than once unless you really want to show that guy the Soul Rock or the Lunatone. So I'm going to give it a higher points for atmosphere because it really does excel in that regard, but I'm still going to give this one a 3.3 out of 5, a little more on the lower end of what we're going for here today. So the Galar mines, I'm just going to count both as the same, because that's essentially what they are. And really, these are more glorified hallways than dungeons. You know, you just walk to get to places. There's some bicycle areas with water that you can go to explore and find some brief little passageways with some items, and sure, there's some stun fisk pretending to be obstacles and stuff like that. But I mean, it's not a dungeon like they used to be in the older games, and it's really a pity to see because Galar needs help standing out, and perhaps some difficult puzzling or dungeoning or unique ways of showing those could have helped it somewhat, but that they didn't really in that case. That being said, I don't hate everything we've got here. I like the colors that are used. I like the music. Um, you do have to go through them for the story. You do have some good story interactions, so it's not a complete waste of time, but it's certainly not going to rank high on the listing. So, Galar Mines are going to get a 3 out of 5 grand total from me personally. So for Generation 9 for Paldea, we've got Area 0, and while the concept of dungeons really is truly dead by this point, Area 0 is still a pretty strong showing. It's got nice plot connection with everything, really nice, satisfying plot connection with everything. It's got a whole heap of unique Pokemon that many of which thus far can only be found there, right? So that's good. And with the DLC, you do have to come back to explore an even deeper region of it with Terrapagos and stuff like that. It's got unique presentation with the music and the crystals and all the things that are going on there. There's that one cool area with the runes where the Paradox Salamence and the Paradox Gardevoir Gallade, I don't remember, it's kind of the fusion of both, can be found. That's really unique. It's just a strong area altogether. One of the better parts of Paldea, and certainly a unique dungeon, quote unquote. You know, it's very hard to call it that, but I think it has the most amount of effort put into it, and I think it's a pretty strong showing. I made a video about Smash Brothers, what stages I think are coming to Smash Brothers next, and I do truly believe Area 0 will be one of the next ones coming our way. It has everything set up for it. It's got that nice climax with the battle against the Robo Professor, right? It's just a strong showing overall. So I'm going to give Area 0 a 4 out of 5, with my 1 point going away being almost all exploration and depth to it, because there's just not. I wish Pokemon would bring dungeons back and challenge the players a little bit more, but this is still a strong showing overall. So this one won't be graded, but I just wanted to chat about it real quick. My bonus spin-off choice for best tunnel or dungeon is or cave rather, is the tunnel from Pokemon Snap. It's not a true cave, it's a tunnel that connects from one side of the mountain to another side. I don't care, it's cave-ish enough for me. The music, the atmosphere, the Pokemon, the way they interact with the technology in the route, the ghosts that you can snap pictures of, Zapdos's egg being woken up by the Pikachu. Everything about it is just so cool and so very much like it formed my impression of what a Pokemon tunnel or cave is like, what they're going to be like. You know what I mean? I do also like the cave level from that game as well, for very much the same reasons. All the levels in Pokemon Stadium 1 are a total vibe, and both of those gave me strong impressions on what caves in Pokemon should be. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's move on to a Mog-Off, shall we? Because we have 2 first place winners. So Mount Coronet and Relic Castle are both in first place right now with a 4.5 out of 5. We can't let that happen here on the Pocket Moggers. That's not how this works. This ain't a democracy. This is a Mogocracy, and the Mog shall win. So, who is going to be our champion here? Who will Mog the other? We're going to use the same rubric that we used with the roots, and we're just going to go down each one of those points. So Pokemon in general, Pokemon in general, I'm gonna give to Mount Coronet. Mount Coronet has more species of Pokemon overall, with a wider variety of roles that they can play, things along those lines. So I'm gonna give that to Coronet. However, I think I'm gonna give unique species to Relic Castle, because the Yamask line and that Volcarona in particular, although there are legendary Pokemon in on Mount Coronet too that can only be found there. Clefairy, Nosepass. No, you know what? Upon second valuation, I'm gonna give that point to Mount Coronet too. So they've got those. Let's do exploration. With that one, I think that one soundly goes to Coronet as well, because Coronet has surfing and waterfall areas and rock smash areas and strength and multiple floors with different kinds of puzzles and different kinds of Pokemon encounters and different items. There's hidden items that you have to come back for. There's legendary stuff. So yeah, I think Coronet gets that one too. And with that out of the way, it's not really possible for Relic Castle to win anymore. So I'm going to give it to our champion, which is Mount Coronet. Mount Coronet is the best kind of dungeon that Pokemon can have. If you are looking to explore a dungeon in a Pokemon game to get the feel of what those are like, Mount Coronet is the one to check out. So there we have it, folks. Let me know what you think in the comments, please. Okay, and with all that being said, I want to thank you all very much for your time. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have other suggestions like this video, let me know below. I'd love to hear them, because I'm always looking for Pokemon topics to discuss, things like that. I have some other videos like this one, like the one talking about the roots, and along with this video, I'm uploading a different Pokemon video. Feel free to check those out, and there are plenty of other different Pokemon videos on the channel as well. If you're big into gaming, I have videos about other topics like fighting games and Metroidvanias and the like. Check those out at the channel if you're interested. Having said that, very quickly, let me get this out of the way. I don't own Pokemon, Nintendo, Game Freak, the Pokemon Company International, any related properties or entities. All rights to their respective owners. And with all that out of the way, thank you all very much for your time. Have a wonderful week. I'm going to see you all in the next one.